Hey there, powerful soul. Thank you for tuning in. We're going to have a conversation about being yourself in your conscious based business and how it is not always as easy as people on these internet streets try to paint it out to be. I had a life-changing conversation not too long ago from someone whom I have admired her work for well over a decade. She's in the conscious trauma aware space, helping women, adult children of alcoholics recover from codependency, narcissistic abuse. And she was one of my inspirations for starting in my work many years ago. And when I started off in my work years ago, I worked with empathic souls to heal from narcissistic abuse. And eventually my work started to evolve a little bit where I started to realize there was more to the equation that I was feeling led and pulled to bring forward in my work, which was the nervous system regulation, the feminine embodiment, the identity, so that you can create long-lasting love and fulfilling relationships and experience the successes that you know you've been placed here on this planet without self-sacrifice. And the conversation that was brought forward today on this call, I was inside of this 3-day challenge, and the conversation that was brought forward, I didn't even know the question that would come out of my mouth. I didn't even expect to get called on. There's thousands of people inside of this challenge. And I was the first one to get called on, of course. And when she called on me, I just spoke from my heart and my soul. And the crux of the conversation was for me to deepen into self-trust and to continue to be myself and my business. And it has been completely opposite. Thank you for being here, Sarah. It has been completely opposite from a lot of the feedback and advice that I've gotten over the years. And I have gone down the rabbit hole, like many online business owners and entrepreneurs, of investing in all the courses and all the programs and all the masterminds and all the coaches and the mentors. And it was causing my head to spin in circles where I didn't know left from right. I had all these voices in my head. I was getting to a point of analysis paralysis, feeling confused, not quite sure what the heck should I even do, because my heart and my soul knows I have a mission. I have a calling. I know I'm called to firstborn daughters. I know I'm called to powerful, self-aware women who are modern day high achievers. And the things that I was being told to do in my business, there were times where it didn't feel right, but then I would go against myself. And there was a time in my journey about a couple years ago, 3 years ago actually, where I started to face a part of myself that I didn't even know was within me. I didn't know that I had this part in me that would either acquiesce or fall into going with status quo. And it was so foreign for me to experience that, because most of my life I have been a trailblazer. I have been the type of person that's marched to the beat of my own drum. I have been the type of person that when everybody's going left, I'm going right. I've been the scapegoat and the black sheep in my immediate family. I have always stood out like a sore thumb, literally and figuratively. And so when I was finding myself in these business spaces and was starting to notice that I was not trusting myself, I was not trusting my voice, I was not trusting the messages that were coming through my soul from God to share inside of my God work. And I was starting to fall prey to comparisonitis. And I was starting to wonder, should I sound like them and do it like them and do it like that to attract the people I know I've been called to serve? Somewhere along the line, I started to lose connection to my true self. And for those of us who are building conscious-based businesses, I'm not talking about those who are building businesses that are based off of mainstream marketing. Those of us who know that we have a calling and we've been called to create impact, and we've been called to be change makers, and we've been called to create new generational blueprints for our lineages. We are called to show up in our leadership and in our business in a way that is not mainstream. We are called to show up in our leadership and in a business in a way that is not going to be popular, that is not according to status quo, that sometimes may not even be according to what your coach or your mentor or some of these folks that actually make the most of their money off of telling people how to do it. It may actually be the opposite of that. And that is something I had to come to terms with and I had to accept was my work is unique. What I do is special. The people that I'm called to is a very specific person. And if I dim my light, if I water down the potency of my voice and my message, then I'm just going to dwindle away. And what was the point of that? For nothing. Invest tens of thousands of dollars for nothing. And so I had this conversation with this woman that I've been connected to for over a decade through the online world. And her work has been so powerful and so transformative in my life. And the conversation we had, it just brought me back to this truth and this knowing that you can just trust yourself. And it sounds so simple. And some people may say, oh yeah, well, duh, trust yourself. But we live in a world where we are not always taught what that even means or what that looks like. And we also live in this modern tech world where we have access to so much information that if you're not careful with what you're consuming, if you're not careful of ensuring that the information you're consuming is in alignment with you and your spirit and your values and your vision and your desires and the path that God has for you, you can find yourself taking on beliefs, ideologies, thoughts, ideas that are actually not in alignment for you. And that is why I believe it is so important that we are connected to our true self. Some people call it your higher self. I don't use that language. I say your true self. That I believe you're connected to your authentic essence. That you're connected to your feminine. Because when we're connected to those aspects of ourselves, then we know how to swift out the wheat from the tares, as the scripture says. We can tell the weeds from the actual plant. We can see through the BS. But when you have your goals and your desires and your dreams and your visions on a pedestal, it can put a filter over your eyes where you cannot see clearly. And before you know it, you're not hearing through the ears of discernment. You're not hearing through the ears of truth. You're not hearing through the ears of authenticity. You're hearing what you want to hear. You're hearing what you think you should be hearing because you've placed what you want on a pedestal. And so these last few years, what I had to do is I had to take money off the pedestal. I had to take success off the pedestal. I had to confront the modern day high achiever within me about why she wanted success and why she wanted to be at a certain level so bad. And what I realized was it was because I wanted to prove myself. I wanted to prove myself to the naysayers. I wanted to prove myself to people who treated me like I was less than them. I wanted to prove myself to the folks that were being mean and bullying. And when I confronted those parts within myself, some of them went all the way back to childhood. The little girl within. And I confronted those parts within myself. And I really started to be with those parts within myself, with compassion and empathy and understanding. And I was able to start to heal those core wounds that was driving my ambition, that was driving my behavior. Then I was able to start to redefine what success really means for me. Not based off of comparing myself to others, not based off of what he has or she has or they have, or not based off of what they're doing or what's going on over there, but based off of my own values, based off of my own core, based off of my own authentic self, my true self, my own essence. And it has completely shifted the way that I want to co-create in my conscious-based business, where I am really allowing myself to just be true to me. and who God has called me to be and who God has called me to create in this lifetime in my conscious-based business, and that it doesn't have to look or sound like anyone else. Now, this is unpopular when we are immersed and surrounded by all of these marketers who are sending us all of these messages telling us that you have to sound like this and you have to say it like this and you have to do it like this. And while there are aspects of learning how to speak to our people in a certain way that do matter, if you lose yourself to this, is it really worth it? Is it really worth it? Is that what you really want? You know, it's interesting because there's been times in my journey where I've worked with women who were coaches or entrepreneurs or leaders or executives, and they lost themselves to their careers. They lost themselves to their businesses. They lost themselves to the work that they do. And it started to have an impact inside of their love lives and their relationships. And when I had experienced that for myself, where me and my husband had a little rocky season a few years back because I had disconnected from myself because I was chasing success. I was chasing the next milestone. I was chasing this. I had to reel myself back in and say, hold on now. What's going on here? Where is this coming from? Why are you doing this? And when I realized that it was that part of me that was trying to prove herself, that was trying to be accepted, that was trying to, fit in with all these women in this mastermind business group that's claiming that they're making all this money and all this and all that, I had to reel myself back in and say, you know what? What is your definition of success? What is your definition of financial freedom? What is your definition of being liberated? What is your definition of having the life, love, and legacy of your dreams? What is your definition of that? And I had to sit my butt down and be still and reconnect with God and myself and sit down and really get clear on that. And I feel inspired to have this conversation with you because now more than ever, everybody and their mama is on these internet streets wanting to create some form of success, whether if it's entrepreneurial success, business success, financial success. So many people are approaching this from a way of they're trying to be seen or they're trying to be known or they're looking for external validation or they're trying to be the best. They're trying to win. They're trying to compete. It's just a lot going on out there right now. And if you are not connected to your core, to your center, to who you are, if you're not grounded in yourself and your God-given mission and your God-given calling, you will get lost in the sauce and you will start sounding like everyone else. And then the people who are called to you in the sound of your voice will not be able to find you in the midst of the noise because you sound like the noise. And so this is something that, making sure my mic is actually working, this is something that I had to face. And so this is the caveat to this is now you really have to come face to face with yourself. If you don't sound like the noise and you're standing out and you're being all of you and you're being authentic, you're not being a replica of someone else. You're not sounding like, looking like anyone else. You're just being fully you, all of you, and you're showing up. This is where the traumas really start to surface. Your rejection traumas, your abandonment traumas, these core wounds that may have caused you to self-sabotage, that may have caused you to play small, that may have caused you to put on this public persona and try to show up in a certain way so that you could try to appear a certain way to get whatever result. But it's a slow soul death. Again, I'm talking to those creating conscious-based businesses and leaders. There's people in so many different industries doing different things that require a different approach. But when you're doing this type of work, being anything other than your authentic self is going to feel like a soul death. And so when you are being confronted with the truth that you're not trusting yourself and you're not showing up as all of you and you're showing up as bits and pieces of you because you're trying to avoid rejection, or you're trying to avoid abandonment, or you're trying to avoid the naysayers, you're trying to avoid being disappointment because what if I do all of this and it doesn't work? What if I do all of this and I fail? What if I do all of this and whatever stories the mind comes up with, and you dwell in that place for too long, you'll sacrifice your time. You'll sacrifice your precious chi, energy. You'll sacrifice the impact that you could have created. You'll sacrifice the joy and the pleasure and the fulfillment just from doing what you've been called and created to do. And so these are things that I really had to sit with these last few years and ask myself, who do you want to be in this work? Because right now, so many people sound like a replica of somebody else, to the point where I can start to tell who their teacher was. I can hear it. I can hear who they learned from by their language, by their energy, by their presence, because they sound like, talk like, look like them. That's not being true to you. That's not being your authentic self. I can tell when people are showing up in these performative ways and they're trying to be seen as powerful and they're trying to be seen as magnetic and they're trying to be seen a certain way because they're hoping that's going to attract the clients and the opportunities and the money. I can see through all of that. I can see when people are tiptoeing and they're just putting their toe in the water because they're afraid of the temperature. Is it hot or is it cold? I can see through all of that. And I know if I can, other people can. So I believe that right now, while there's a lot of shifting happening in the atmosphere, where there is a lot of changes happening in the marketplace, while there are a lot of pivots and shifts and changes happening even on these internet streets, now more than ever, people need us to be our full and authentic selves. And I know that sounds cliche, but most people don't even know how to do that, because a lot of people are trying to bypass their traumas with performance, with an image, with appearing a certain way, with the cute pictures and the cute branding and the cute marketing and the cute messaging, and behind the scenes, we don't know what's going on. I've worked with women who were drinking their pain away. Every night they were drinking wine and they normalized it. They normalized this dysfunction. Oh, it's not a big deal. But when you're numbing yourself to cope with your reality, that means that you have a dysregulated nervous system. That means you're not connected to your true self. That means you've disconnected from your source, from the creator, the I am that I am. You're not connected to your authentic self in that state. These are the conversations people don't want to have. Everybody wants to talk about little fluffy stuff and stuff that sounds good, but we have to talk about what's real so that people can actually experience real, true freedom in their lifetimes. And we're not going to experience freedom by playing patty cake and pretending like there aren't these coping strategies and mechanisms that you've taken on that are not serving you. This is why I bring somatic alchemy work into my work, is showing you how to manage your stress in a way where you are staying in your body, not living in your head, how to keep your nervous system regulated, and doing it in a way where, I mean, some of these somatic movements that I bring in my work don't even take that long, like 30 seconds. And you like, oh, I feel my energy shifting. It's like magic. But we have to know what we need to stay calm and centered and grounded and staying connected to ourselves. Because every day I see people talking about divorce and it breaks my heart. And I'm not talking about relationships where there was abuse and harm and misalignment, but I can feel in my spirit that there's some people getting a divorce, not because of abuse, harm, or misalignment, because of ego. because they didn't want to do the inner work, because they stayed in their pride, because they were disconnected from their feminine essence, because they projected their leaky, stressed leader energy onto their beloved and then blamed and shamed and judged and criticized them. That is the truth of what's happening. And this division that is happening between men and women and man versus woman and should you be in a relationship or not, it's just ridiculous. We didn't get here by ourselves. And so I believe right now more than ever, we need people showing up in their authentic essence. We need people being embodied fully, not pretending, not performing. People are hungry right now for real transformation, for real change. People are tired of the BS. People are tired of being sold fluff. People are tired of being told BS that doesn't even work. People want real people right now. And I believe the people I've been called to are real leaders, real experts, real change makers. And in order to be that, there is an identity that you have to step into where you release all of these roles and all of these mechanisms and strategies and ways of being you've taken on throughout your life to try to get through life, to try to succeed, to try to show up and be perceived a certain way. You're going to have to let all that go. Because in this next season that God is calling us in, it's going to require your refinement in who you are. And so if you're going to step into being a well-loved, well-pleasured, well-paid woman, if you're going to step into leading well, if you're going to step into creating success that doesn't compromise your well-being, that doesn't entail self-sacrifice, that doesn't mean that you're projecting leaky, stressed leader energy onto your beloveds, you are going to have to step into a version of yourself that you may not have given yourself permission to step into because of the messaging out there. And for BIPOC women, Black, Indigenous, people of color especially, we have spent a lot of our lives as firstborn daughters, modern day high achievers, learning how to navigate corporate, learning how to navigate government, learning how to navigate business in a way where we don't have to be perceived as intimidating or be perceived as whatever to avoid rocking the boat so that we can maintain our job or maintain our positions or maintain our income and our salaries or whatever, what have you. But I believe God is calling us into a season to let all of that go. People don't want performance right now. They want all of you. They want the truth of you. And vibrational frequency doesn't lie. And so if there's something within you that is not congruent with yourself, it's going to be felt, whether if it's by your partner, whether it's by your audience, whether it's by the people you've been called to serve or work with. My Qigong Sifu calls it funky chi, funky chi, funky energy. And so although this may sound cliche, although this may sound like, yeah, I've heard that before, be yourself, be authentic. I hate to sound like a record. I'm not going to say a broken record because nothing about me is broken, honey. Okay. I hate to sound like a repeating record. I'll say that. But I believe right now we have to be fully ourselves, which means we have to trust ourselves, which means we can't be seeking external validation, which means we can't have all of these voices in our ear telling us what to do and how to do it. And we're not tuned in and connected to the voice of God within that is truly the ultimate voice we should be listening to. Because I'm going to tell you something. When you listen to the voice of God, you will collapse time and catapult in your results way beyond these 1 + 1 = 2 strategies that people got out there. Ask me how I know. So my urge to you is to really sit with yourself and ask yourself, what is your definition of success? What is your definition of liberation and freedom? What is your definition of a thriving relationship? What are your relationship goals? What is your definition of thriving? And really sit down with yourself and get clear on that. It's your clarity that will become the compass. The clarity of your vision, your desires that God placed inside of you that will become your compass, your roadmap, your inner GPS of where you should go and how you should get there. And yes, we need mentors. I'm a mentor and a healer and a guide myself. And I'm darn good at what I do. But one thing that sets me apart from others is I'm not going to tell you that you need to do this and you need to do that. I'm going to guide you back to the truth of you, so that you are leading inside of your life, inside of your relationship, inside of your work that you do from that place. I don't need to tell you what to do because the truth lives within you. All we have to do is get you back in your body and stop living in your head so much. Get your nervous system regulated. Reconnecting with your authentic essence and your feminine. Rewiring those faulty self-perceptions and unconscious crippling beliefs that have caused you to maybe show up in misaligned ways, so that you are experiencing everything you've ever desired and more, because I believe that we deserve it. We deserve it. And so I appreciate you all being here. If you know someone that needs to hear this, if you would share them and tag them, I would appreciate it. And looking forward to our next conversation together. Have a blessed day. Take care now.